Well, it's a new era. The Stephen era. Starting now. It is the Alex Murdaugh is over now era. And man, that feels good to say again. And more hopeful this time around. I'll say this again. Changing a system is difficult by design. And progress often looks insignificant to many because it is so small. But we are going to celebrate each tiny step that we make. The fact that the process for electing judges was halted, and the media is recognizing that it is due to a growing number of people who oppose this outdated system of lawyer lawmakers hand-selecting judges who help them in the courtroom in return, well, that is a big deal.
This Monday was the deadline for the special referee to submit his decision on how Alex Murdaugh's assets will get divided among his victims. The victims who put their names in the mix anyway. Remember, there are a lot more victims out there than we even know about. Alex law firm should have gotten zero. Zip. Nada. These crimes happened on their watch. They say that's because of the culture of the firm, the brotherhood, the family. They trusted Alex because he was one of them, and that's why this went on for so long. Well, your brother done messed up your family, and now your family's suffering because of it, and that is not the victim's problem.
Let's finally talk about Stephen Smith. On Wednesday morning, we spoke with Stephen's mother, Sandy, about her stoic presence in the courtroom during Alex's hearings for a new trial. Sandy wore a bright green shirt and sat smack dab in the middle of the small army of SLED agents and state officials who attended the hearing January 29th. I remember over a month ago when it was announced that the hearing would take place on January 29th. Sandy said to me, "Really? They're going to hold that on Stephen's birthday. How about I go there for a little reminder?" she said. I love Sandy's peskiness, and of course, I said do it. It was a genius and symbolic idea for her to sit in the courtroom and remind the world of the case that has been left behind because of Alex and his team of judicial terrorists sucking up all the resources. Sandy is undoubtedly and rightfully frustrated with SLED after so many empty promises. This June will mark 3 years since they've had the case. I asked her this week if she's heard any updates from SLED since Alex Murdaugh's legal shenanigans have been put to rest.
Nothing. Eric messaged us this morning where he wrote Chief Keel, and he says no updates at this time. Now they got the resources because after Justice Toll finishes whatever she's doing, then they can get back on Stephen's case, which is frustrating.
Shortly after the murders of Maggie and Paul, 2 private detectives reportedly connected to lawyers defending Parker's Kitchen in the Mallory Beach lawsuit went to Sandy pretending to be there to offer their help in finding Stephen's killer. When they left, they took Stephen's iPad with the promise of searching it for answers. Their main goal appears to have been to find dirt on Buster Murdaugh, who was a co-defendant in the Beach lawsuit at the time. It was heartless, cruel, and inhuman of them to get Sandy's hopes up, to use her in such a thoughtless way. And for what? Oh right, money. We've also seen a high-profile lawyer in Charleston offer to represent Sandy for free, so long as she agreed to not speak publicly about Stephen's case, the absolute opposite of what an attorney should have been advising her to do at that time. She was so grateful for his help, she felt like she had to agree to his terms. The attorney assigned a private detective to the case, and this private detective appeared to go into the job with an eye toward proving that the Murdochs had nothing to do with Stephen's death. Sandy has been targeted by members of the press and by other podcasters who, behind the scenes, have told her that she's been hijacked by us, who claim that they're unable to help her because we won't let them near her, as if we have any say in who Sandy speaks to. As if there's any world in which we wouldn't want every person in the media to write about Stephen Smith's case every day.
This case is not about the Murdochs. It is about Stephen Smith and who did this to him. But again, the Murdochs are inextricably linked to the case because of what investigators were told in the days and months after Stephen's death. It doesn't matter how many times we set the record straight or how many times we explain that the Murdaugh name is all over the case file. It doesn't matter that we've published videos of police interviews showing that in the days after Maggie and Paul's deaths, Sled was not only asking Buster and his uncles about the Stephen Smith case, his uncle brought up the case to Sled. There is no evidence in the case file that Buster Murdaugh had anything to do with Stephen's death. There are, however, direct references to the Murdochs being involved in the investigation.
Dr. Dupree was hired to help Sandy navigate the ins and outs of a second autopsy and turned around and wrote a book that includes details from Stephen's case, and it was published when this case is still open. And she didn't just share details, she offered her opinions, including throwing out hints that don't actually make sense when you look at the evidence. According to the book, a portion of the proceeds from its sales will go directly to Sandy, and this was something that she was not aware of until we told her. It's a red flag that in a case where there have been so many whispers, and where the case file itself is laden with the name of a powerful family known for its influence over law enforcement, a case where the victim's body shows no typical signs of having been hit by a vehicle. There's a medical examiner with strong connections to the 14th Circuit who doomed this case from the start with her ruling. Dr. Schultz of the autopsy doctor in Tampa, Florida, performed the second autopsy. Like Dr. Purcell, Dr. Schultz found that Stephen's body lacked the kind of injuries you'd expect to see in a pedestrian versus vehicle incident. Mandy and I are both optimists and believe that between Sled's renewed efforts and the fact that we feel very confident that there are not only people who know what happened, there are people who know the people who know what happened, and those people are going to be the ones to crack this case open.
Again, Sandy just wants answers. And thus far, all she has gotten is hot nonsense from just about every person who has said that they've wanted to help her. To the people out there who know the people who know what happened, the world is so much bigger than Hampton County. No mother should have to live with this kind of pain, and protecting a person who has done harm to others is not worth the price of your soul.
I want people to know I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here, and I'll fight for my son until my last breath. Please call SLED. Please call the tip line. You don't have to reveal who you are. You can do it anonymously.
Stay tuned, stay pesky, and stay in the sunlight.